By the mid-1980s, after decades of slowly taking over Japan's toy production, Hong Kong had grown to become the world's leading toy manufacturer. With an already prosperous open market, business was stoked even more by China's social and economic reform. Most of the local population was young and led by experienced business owners. The relationship was a far cry from utopia, though, with contracts often pushing the limit of what was humanly possible. For brands like Mattel, Hong Kong was an indispensable partner. Their skill and speed enabled Masters of the Universe to dominate the 80s figure market. They also worked with other companies like DFC, Remco, and Arco to produce hundreds of original fantasy products. Toy demand often exceeded factory capacity, which was good for smaller makers interested in overflow work. Kalok Industrial, a Kowloon cottage company, promoted its skill and emerged as a reputable manufacturer of plastic novelties. In November of 1982, Hong Kong completed a huge wave of Christmas fantasy toys. Seeing the obvious trend, Kalok committed to their first ever figure offering patterned after Mattel's Crystar. The product was distributed by Latardi of Italy and dubbed I Mercenari. In Rome, original artwork and stories were commissioned, and a small partial color comic series ran throughout 1984 to promote the toys. Readers followed the chivalrous Odino as he protected Princess Radha from Fulmine, slayed savage dinosaurs, gambled with Skeletro, and hypnotized enemies with his color-changing unicorn Zorgo. After toiling to follow in the footsteps of Marvel's Crystar, I Mercenari met a similar struggle with sales, and for American collectors who knew the figures from catalog photos, they were believed to be unproduced prototypes. Luckily, Kalok and Latardi worked together and made this large 8-inch fantasy figure line a reality. In Hong Kong, Kalok leased space within the newly constructed Wongchong factory estate to begin production of their first figure line in 1983. This improved manufacturing conditions, but couldn't resolve a tight budget and old equipment. Like all smart generic releases, the I Mercenari figures utilized the same body parts shot in different colors. To keep setup and production cheap, a two-part cavity was used to make hollow extrusion blow-molded bodies. Limbs were solid injected and twisted into the hollow body shells. By 80s action figure standards, the final product was rough and unconventional, but consistent with off-brand toys of years past. Due to various factors, replicating Crystar's perfectly clear plastics wasn't something that Kalok could achieve. Luckily, an affordable glimmering alternative helped define the line's final look. Parts were vacuum metallized, a process that was centuries old, but had only recently been used on toy figures. I Mercenari's signature hero figure Odino was clad from head to toe. Raised geometric patterns gave the base body strength and an impressive quality when metallized. The final product shine and metal riveted joints made many believe that the toys were die-cast, but they were simply plastic through and through. Depending on the base coat and handling, figures could remain good-looking for quite some time. This Odino has extensive surface wear and displays clear plastic beneath the chrome coating. While this is strong evidence that Kalok may have attempted to make clear figures, it also shows us how foggy polypropylene can be. In the end, nearly every production Odino was made from a mix of colored scrap. The final chrome coating unified the various hues and ingeniously turned dregs into the line's signature figure. The I Mercenari comics offered no direct explanation for Odino's metallic skin. He was described as a knight from a distant land and drawn covered with line work that readers accepted as form-fitting fantasy armor. His face was often rendered exposed with loose blonde hair, flesh and blood. Similar to Marvel's Crystar figures, the I Mercenari paintwork was minimalistic, with base material color doing the heavy lifting. Luckily, Odino did not receive a flesh tone treatment, and kids were able to enjoy his powerful reflective metallic face. First-run toys featured chromed and painted belts, a step that would eventually be omitted. When it was time to box everything up, the finished package was just as unconventional as everything else. The final card pattern was large with an odd folded side flap. The figure bubble was aggressively deep and angular. The package artwork's nouveau border, castle, circular emblem, and neon coloration were all observed and taken directly from Arco's The Other World, which was being fabricated at the same time. A handful of Imperial and DFC Dragon Riders of Styx designs can be seen mixed in with the original primitive paintings of I Mercenari figures. The back of the card was very basic and plainly depicted the toys as expected, fully decked out with accessories and names. Based on what little we know from the comic book content, the series was villain-heavy, which kept Odino busy battling bad guys. The Commander Fulmine was a corrupt and dangerously overpowered warrior. He was most feared for mercilessly casting deadly energy bolts on the battlefield. Fulmine's head design was a flopped version of Marvel's Zardoth, and like all other Mercenari, there were so many internal revisions that the character became far more than a lazy counterfeit. Since the figures all shared a common body design, the setup complicated Fulmine's lightning accessory. Unable to hold a lightning bolt within a closed fist, the energy accessory was segmented, and the parts easily plugged into the top and bottom of the right hand hole to create the look of unstopped energy. The prototype lightning pieces were shown in red on the card back, but the final production parts were metallized. To add to Fulmine's already overpowered lightning energy, his shield was also enchanted. Emblazoned with a melting sunwheel design, it was able to pull enemy weapons toward it and shatter them like glass. Based on Marvel's Moltar and the Magma Men, the image of volcanic rock people evolved into Imercenaries Tentacolo, a red-faced figure with a horn-covered helmet. Unfortunately, he was only seen within Latardi figure print ads and was not seen within the few remaining comics. His open yellow collar design was made into a weird sun-shaped bib, which was die-cut from a fairly unforgiving vinyl sheeting. This example is a reproduction made from flexible fabric. Tentacolo shipped with a mason whip, both patterned after the original Magma Man weapon set. The black whip was the only Imercenary accessory to skip metallization, since the coating would have flaked away when the whip was bent. His burning yellow eyes occasionally went unpainted, and the blue body plastic was notoriously soft and brittle, which has made this figure the most fragile in the series. Leaving the theme of Crystar-based figures, Kalok's last and most popular Imercenary villain was Skeletro, inspired by Mattel's Skeletor. The artwork for this slim undead character was ridiculously good, with every aspect exuding an amazing fantasy energy. The character of Skeletro was introduced as a temperamental gambler, and when accused of cheating, he loses his cool and kills the competition. The face sculpt is grotesque, but far more fun than frightening. His head required the most paint passes. A washed-out purple, gray, and gentle mist of gross forehead green gave the figure a playful rotten charm. Skeletro's frilled vinyl cowl was based on historic European executioner clothing, similar to Skeletor's hood and segmented shoulder epaulets. To keep the figure evenly matched when battling the others, he shipped with 2 chromed weapons. Like Tentacolo, he came without a shield, yet was far from defenseless. His wide sword with implied skull motif was intimidating, but a small sickle was the character's primary weapon within the comics. Determining when Imercenari were first sold has proven to be a bit difficult. The Mercenari figure cards were dated February 18, 1983, but this same unchanged Italian toy standards date was used by Latardi and many other companies until the early 1990s. It's not a true production date. However, the date is useful and lets us know that the figures were not distributed on Christmas of 1982, which would have directly overlapped Crystar's first release. Since the card artwork utilized finished designs by Arco and DFC, we know that Imercenari was being developed in mid to late 1983. We also have dated Mercenari books and print ads to consider, which ran throughout every month of 1984. So realistically, we definitely know that Imercenari were being sold throughout all of 1984, and it seems likely that they would have targeted Christmas of 1983, but we don't know for sure. The figures were advertised one last time in 1985 when Kalok offered the series up to retailers as the Warriors. Unfortunately, they were never able to find another partner, and Kalok disappeared as a Hong Kong toy manufacturer after 1986. Like all obscure toys, the figures were forgotten by most, but remembered by a select group of lucky kids. There were certainly a number of things wrong with Imercenari, but there were just as many impressive aspects. Unlike other off-brand figures, the foundation of Kalok's work was completely new. It lifted design elements of Crystar, but it was not a basic oversculpt or retooled existing product. It was all from scratch. And while rough around the edges and the first and last figure series that Kalok would ever produce, it was worth it. They took advantage of new factory space, designed a new product, and managed to deliver it. We know that they failed to achieve any level of commercial success, but it's clear that they believed in what they were doing. The unique artwork, comics, original large sculpts, weaponry, and metallized plastic all came together to create something far more involved than a lazy repop. Kalok and Latardi's Imercenari. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more Black Tub Bootlegs.
Black Tub Bootlegs!
È un prodotto Litardi.